Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Chameleon.
Chameleon.
Are you waiting for me to say this every time? I'm
Every
not ready.
single time.
Every time there is a pause, I'm like, oh shit, is this me?
I'm so cringy like that. I want us to say things at the same time and just look at each other and be on cue, like a movie. But today we're talking about something that even just preparing this opened my eyes. So I look forward to having that discussion with you.
It was so fun to prepare it. I mean, we say prepare like we spend days, but to
10
prepare
minutes.
it in the past 15 minutes,
Yeah.
it was very interesting.
Absolutely.
You made me laugh a lot.
I tend to be hilarious. That's my strong suit, you know.
The queen of self-awareness did not know this.
I know, I'm shocked. And I think we can just dive into it real quick. The topic we're talking about today is activism, and a topic that just hearing it, and I can feel my shoulders tense up, makes me so tense is the word. And also not cringe, but I do just, tend to be on my tippy toes around it, even just talking about it now.
Yeah.
But
It's heavily charged. Like this word is just, there's so many connotations to it.
absolutely. And I'm ready to break it down with you, ready to look at it in a microscopic lens. And the best way to start is defining it, like we do, I think, on every episode. What is activism?
What is activism? Is it, I mean, for me, like adding value to anything you care about, anything that will drive social change? Is it activism? Is it the definition of it per the dictionary?
I can have a look real quick. So here it says it's the act of campaigning for some kind of social change. It can be loud, quiet, big, small, local, or global is the definition I have here. And there was another one that actually resonated much more with me. I resonate with the last half of what I said, which is, I think it can be quiet, loud, big, small. Unfortunately, what we see a lot of isn't necessarily the only way activism can exist and manifest, which we'll get there. But the definition that resonated with me the most, because I am in love with change and innovation, as one would, is there's something at stake that demands change, which makes you an activist and act on it. So what is at stake for anyone listening that you feel demands change, that you'd like to speak about or think about, write about? You can do it as loud or quietly as possible, and that still falls within activism, which is, to everyone listening and was wondering, what I'm finding out now. Insane.
Because when I suggested this topic, you're like, this is going to be so interesting and I can interview you. And I was like,
yeah,
why would you interview me?
Absolutely. I was just not ready to talk about activism because I never really looked at myself in that lens. For me, activism has always been, speaking about and demanding change for something, that is at stake, but doing it in a manner that is persuasive and loud. That was my vision of activism. And I think it's very much shaped by media, maybe what I read. Yeah. It's not anyone's fault. It's my fault for just tunnel visioning on just that definition. So today, I can openly say I am an activist. Damn. I think because now I can confidently say I do a lot of activist things. What makes you an activist, or how can you stand up for and act on things that demand change? Would you be able to maybe give examples, because you've really helped me see myself in that light now, of how could someone see whether or not they are doing things that would create ripples of change?
Fun. What would you be an activist for example?
Great.
Is it just for Save the Turtles?
So the video of a straw stuck in a turtle's...
Very sad.
Yeah, super sad. But I think it could be anything, ranging from environmental, like cultural, political, social causes, and you can think of many that fall within these categories, but I think it's generally these categories, unless there's a few that I'm missing. I think there's economical, now that I'm reading it, that is another one you can think of. But if you feel like, no, actually it falls within none of these and I still want to speak up about it, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's always an other category, and I think everything deserves an other. If you don't feel like it fits and it has a place, create a place for it. And I think that's another way you can be an activist. So
yes, I think the first one we all think about is taking part in a rally or going to a protest, which could be daunting, to be honest. It could be dangerous as well, and it's a lot of things. There's a lot of people. You could have crowd anxiety. You could be worried about your own safety as well, depending on your background. There's so much at stake there. It could also be you're just walking by a protest and you're just reading the sign. Already reading the sign is taking part in activism, because you're consuming what people that want this change to be driven, that, you know, what they've produced and what they think about. Or obviously, if you feel a bit extrovert that day, you can just ask someone that take part in the protest, what is it about? And, you know, why does it matter to you? That's already activism, you know, caring.
And the more you speak and the more you give examples, the more I really feel like I identify with acting upon and demanding change for some causes that speak very, very loudly to me. And I've always been very cautious not to be that loud person, because it doesn't have to be loud for it to work or for it to speak. Although I respect a lot of people that want to take that approach too. And I think finding your feet in this world, where, of course, the louder you are, the more the message is heard, can be really hard. And it can be very tiring to consume that rather than even just act. I consume a lot of content that now I understand falls within activism.
Yeah.
Right? People who are treated unjustly, given a platform to raise money, raise awareness. I consume that.
Yeah.
And I'm tired at the end of the day. And I can't even imagine what the people going through this, who need the money and the awareness, are going through. And just looking at what's happening at the world right now, and I don't know when we will release this podcast, but I think it would be useful for people to know currently what's going on in the world is just a lot of injustice, a genocide, essentially. Just put it that way.
A few.
Yeah, a few. And I don't want it to take this turn. But this is the greatest example of seeing information being distributed, activism being implemented, I guess, across platforms, physical, digital, and all, and how tiring it is. Either you engage in it or not, you're tired from hearing this and from seeing the world be in this situation. So I didn't think the recording would take this turn, but I have a question. What can one do if they are an activist or are surrounded by activism to just take a step back, pause, breathe, while still being a good advocator?
And it brings to that topic of, like, that's what I was thinking when thinking about the protests and stuff, is like, you can easily fall into that trap of like, I'm not good enough as an activist, or am I showing up enough? Because it can happen sometimes that you end up at a protest, but you didn't prepare your sign. You just hand in your pocket, and you don't have, you know, but it's not about comparing. We go back to, like, don't compare yourself with others. Just putting something, you know, you're adding some value to it, and that's enough. You know, you're doing what you can with what you have and who you are at this moment in time. Maybe it's not your role as well to be there. Like, you can consume, but also sometimes take a break from it and be like, actually, let me take care of my mental health for a day, for today, for a week, just shut this down, then get back to it, because I'm not going to be more valuable to my cause if I'm burned out anyway. Like, you know what I mean?
And the burnout is real. And I feel like what happens when you're trying so hard and you feel like you've done everything you can possibly, and change doesn't happen, right? And I think that's gets you closer and closer to that burnout rate of, I am so helpless, I'm useless, why do I even bother? And a lot of negative thoughts and feelings, essentially. So there's really highs where you see people learning, commenting, having constructive conversations with you that gives you hope that you're doing it to educate. But then there are the lows where people are still hurt. Even though the others are learning, the people you're advocating for are, just fading away. And that's so sad. Again, don't want to take that dark turn, but what are some things we can do as people to, mitigate all of that, to also protect ourselves, but at the same time continuing that information passing, raising awareness, and donating, volunteering, all the activities that you mentioned, right? Let's go back to them. What are some ways you can do where it's not as tiring?
Yeah, you can go through different avenues, right? Because obviously some people, their activism will show in a light that is very digital, and it will show on their platform, on their stories, or on comment section, which they all have different levels of tiredness. And some people won't show at all on socials, but they will go through an activism that is much more tiring, which is having very difficult conversation with people in their families, in their group of friends, in their surrounding, with their colleagues. Some people risk their job for it. And so it's just sometime making sure you take care of yourself, taking a step back. And, we are so many activists around the world, and I feel like it's just like a relay thing. We kind of like pass the relay to each other and be like, okay, at the moment, I need to recharge. I need to recharge myself so then I can keep on doing this. Because it happened a lot. I mean, I see a lot in the sphere of, environmental activism, activists around me, that it gets to a point where you want to die. You're like, well, this is not going, like, there are some progress made, but it's, my days were, it's a bit depressing, right? So it's all about putting it back in perspective and be like, okay, it's out of my control. And it's the most important thing is that I take care of myself first, and my mental health and my well-being, because I won't be of any use if I'm not good either, because I want to keep on being that person that have a lot of empathy and a lot of cognitive, abilities to be able to add to it. And if I'm too tired, it won't work. So trying to be an activist in different avenues, and maybe like, okay, I'm at that party or I'm at this place and I see that this person has very different views. Usually I would go and try my best to educate them and go at almost until the argument tipping point. But today, I don't think I can do it. It's fine. And instead of this, if you really want to palliate, you can be like, okay, but maybe next week I'm gonna stop buying from this brand, or I'm gonna unfollow this person. Or there are different ways to show your activism, and maybe it's giving your time, maybe it's donating, maybe it's giving money, maybe it's having discussions or signing petitions. But they all have different levels of how much it's gonna take from you and how much it's gonna share with others.
And how much impact it's going to make. And don't be hard on yourself, I think, in doing that mental calc between, is what I'm putting in drawing out a lot, or is it not? Should I even bother? Don't go into that mental calculus, because it's, I think, at a point, doesn't matter. What matters the most is you're taking action for change to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be you alone. It's going to be that ripple effect. And you have to trust and have hope that you're not contributing to an anonymous survey that you created and didn't share with anyone.
Yeah.
Have trust and have faith that it is contributing a certain way, and don't overexert that contribution or act with just super high hopes. Just do it in any way that you can. And I think that's why I never really thought about it the way you described. I would volunteer a lot, and
you really volunteer a lot.
And I never considered that activism, not for 1 second. It was just a way to give back and instantly see the fruits of what you give back, even if it's just a seed that you planted, it's so physical.
Yeah, of course.
And never considered it in that light ever. And I think you've just opened my eyes today to the different forms of activism I was exercising across the years.
While we were going through that list, I'm like, you've literally done almost all of them, like tree planting, giving your time, working for charities, you know, being on...
And vice versa. And I could see that you were an activist without doing the loud, persuasive one, right? I just never really understood the definition in the way it related to my actions. I just understood in the way I saw it. And we wanted to share this discussion with you because it opened my eyes. It opened, I think, your eyes a little bit over my, you know,
Yeah, I
just
had no
complete
idea.
blank.
Yeah.
So choose your battles and choose your actions and just be kind. I think spread kindness and appreciate other people's perspective without attacking them.
Yeah.
Still, you can have constructive conversations without attacking each other. I think that's one of the big things.
And I think for me, the way to be an activist that, I don't know, has been working the best for me because, well, first is to pick my battles for sure, because at first I was everywhere and you can't. You simply cannot. So you're going to go against single-use plastic and palm oil, for example, because that is really what I care about, the ocean and da-da-da. So pick your battles first, for sure. And second is more, instead of being that much in the persuasion, which is as much as it's good to have argument with people and trying to educate and trying to spread awareness, which is amazing, I feel it more natural for me to be like applying it to my own lifestyle. And then by being who I am, just showing that it's possible to be like this and have a good life. Like being in that role model type of activism of like, oh, this is how I live. Doesn't look difficult, does it? Then it's possible. And it doesn't require effort, and it doesn't require, it's really not that hard to not live by in those ways. So if I take the example of like, I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of the alcohol lobbyist. You know, those guys that would pay for movies to add brandy or whiskey in every scene that there is a boss woman or boss man taking a tough decision. They're going to have that glass of whiskey because the lobbyists have paid for this to be there. And so for us to associate, big strategies, big decision, big money, I need to be drinking whiskey. And then, so it's like, obviously they're being big advocate for this type of, they're not doing it for a brand, they're doing it for a whole industry, right? And I feel like every single time I go to a rave, I go to a festival, I go to a nightclub, I go to dancing, I go to a party, and I'm sober, and yet I'm dancing all night, I'm having fun, I'm socializing with people, I'm pushing myself to be out of my comfort zone and talking with a stranger and really having fun. I'm not telling people you should do the same as me. I'm not telling people you shouldn't be drinking. But people are like, oh, are you not drinking? Are you driving? No. Or why are you not drinking? You because I don't feel like I need to. Like, because I don't want to today. Like, and not trying to find excuses. And it's just like, oh, this is possible. And it just, put a tiny seed in people's head of like, oh, that's actually possible. She's probably also saving money. And tomorrow she can do more stuff. Like, so...
Absolutely. That is, to me, the choose your battles that I didn't have enough awareness on. What you're doing currently, being considered as activism, is, for me, such a big relief. Or not relief, but almost a realization that, because I had so many cases where I would create excuses around not wanting to drink because it was just so tireless to explain to people.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I don't need it. I can be very bubbly and extroverted without it. And sometimes I want to drink it. I am that whiskey drinking stereotype, actually. Which, oops, I fell for whatever they were trying to do. I feel like an important man. But I actually do like smoky taste. That's why, again, what the example you gave about don't give excuses for believing in something you believe in. And it's okay to apologetically be who you are and believe in it, even if it seems like 100 people around you are doing the opposite. Just stick to what you want and don't be swayed too much by peer pressure. It's impossible for me to say don't be swayed, but try to be aware that some people might want to influence you to go to their side, to make themselves feel better about doing this decision, even if it's a good or bad one, right? So stand your ground. If you believe in something, pursue it, and you don't have to be loud about it.
Something also that is important for me, I think, is like, when every activist go through this of like being really, really into something, you've read countless lines, book, article, you've watched, you've really consumed a lot about this specific topic that you've now chosen because you picked your battle. Let's say it's palm oil. And I'm so certain that there is no certified sustainable palm oil. There's like da-da-da-da, and you're really down your thing. What's important is like bear in mind that everyone is picking their battles. So you've picked palm oil or whatever it is you picked, but someone else has picked something else. And there are hundreds of fights to pick. And so it's just bearing in mind and not going crazy at people because they're not fighting the same fights as you. If someone is eating stuff with palm oil, I'm not going to go crazy at them ever. Because they are probably fighting fights that I'm not invested in.
Yeah, and I don't think we should expect anyone to fight the battles you're fighting for. And you shouldn't expect as well to be perfect and fight all the battles because you are a certain person that came to this world as who you are. And clearly, from what I see, because you fight this battle, why wouldn't you jump on the train with me on this other one? It doesn't make sense, Karen. Well, it's exactly what you said. You can't do everything, and you have to be forgiving with yourself. And so I think, from what I realized doing a lot of this, I can't do all of them at once. And I couldn't do all of them at once. I had to do one, take a break, do another, take a break, and just pick one that really suits the amount of energy I can exert on it on a day-to-day, because it's very tiring, and it is not as tiring as what people who we're trying to help are going through, for sure. But as people who are trying to give back and raise awareness and have discussions as much as we can, it can really get to you, and the energy you have left might not be enough for a normal day-to-day, which is, waking up and doing your routine. It's very easy to get sunk in, stay in bed, read the news and cry and just stay in that zone, which I'll be very honest, for the past month, I've been in that space. My partner pointed it out, and I decided to change my routine to avoid burnout, which is leave my phone in the living room or leave my phone really far from bed, get out and forget that the phone exists to get that news. But I have the luxury and privilege to avoid the news. People live this every single day. And that's the mental battle, I think, now that I know activists face, is I need to shout it from the rooftops because I'm not even experiencing it. I can just talk about it and people live it. So all of this are truths. They're truths beyond the loud and persuasive protesting that we see. And we have to embody them, we have to accept and just listen. And you have the luxury to swipe away from it. If you're listening to this, you have the luxury to just pause and go take a break. So I think that's important to remember. Anything else?
No, I think it's great. Like, I think it really makes sense to have those two in front of each other. Pick your battles while bearing in mind that other people are fighting other fights that sometimes you have not even an idea that it exists because it doesn't affect you. So and
it doesn't need to affect you for you to fight the fight, and that's it.
No,
it's super,
you will know.
You'll know. Look at us. But we care, and we're here. Anything you want to bring up that we can share, that we can post, we can have conversations about, we're both, I think, super open for that. And thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Thank you, peeps. Have a beautiful day.